choice. HFY, the hum of the alien ship, filled every corner like a cold whisper. Red lights pulsed along the walls, each flash making the air feel heavier. In the middle of the endless corridor ran a single human. His name was Daniel, his face pale and his heart pounding like a drum. He did not know how much time had passed since the capture, only that his life had been broken in a single moment. He had been with his two sisters, Anna and Lila, on a camping trip back on Earth. The night was quiet, the fire crackled, the stars stretched across the sky. Then the light came. Not a star, not a plane, but a sharp beam that swallowed them whole. Daniel had no chance to fight, no chance to run, only the strange freezing pull that dragged them into the sky. And now here he was, trapped inside the metal veins of a ship that did not belong to humans. The aliens had made their message clear. He would have to choose. One sister to live, the other to die. It was not a dream, not a lie, but a command spoken in a voice colder than any storm he had ever known. And the more he thought about it, the more impossible the choice became. Daniel pushed through the narrow halls, guided by two guards, their armor shining like black glass. They were tall, taller than any man, their movements slow but sharp, like blades that never dulled. They did not speak. They did not need to. Their glowing eyes watched him with the hunger of hunters. The humans were prey here, nothing more. His mind went back to Anna, strong and serious, always carrying more responsibility than she should. She was the one who had carried him on her back when he broke his leg as a child. She was the one who stood between him and bullies at school. She had always been a shield, even when no one asked her to be. Then he thought of Lila, bright, full of life, a girl who laughed at storms and danced in the rain. She had a way of turning darkness into light, of reminding everyone that hope was still possible. If Anna was the shield, Lila was the flame, and both were his blood, his family, his world. How could he pick one and destroy the other? The guards led him to a chamber unlike any he had seen before. The walls curved like the inside of a shell, glowing with a strange pulse. At the center stood two cages, transparent and filled with faint blue light. Inside each cage was one of his sisters. Anna stood tall, her fists clenched, her eyes burning with anger. Lila pressed against the glowing wall, her cheeks wet with tears, her voice cracking as she cried his name. Daniel's knees nearly gave out at the sight. Every part of him wanted to smash the cages, to tear the aliens apart, but his body was weak, his mind broken. Then the commander stepped forward, his presence filling the chamber with an icy weight. He was larger than the guards, his armor darker, his eyes glowing with cruel fire. His voice rang out, sharp and merciless. Human, the law of my kind is simple. Two were taken, but only one shall return. Choose, and choose now, or both shall die. Daniel's lips trembled, his throat dry. He wanted to shout, to curse, to demand answers, but the words were locked behind fear. The commander raised a clawed hand and pointed to a timer on the wall. Numbers began to fall. 60 seconds. No more. Anna's voice broke the silence, strong yet shaking. Choose Lila. Save her. She has a future. She can still live. Her eyes burned with love, the same eyes that had once looked down at him when he was a child, hiding under blankets from thunder. But before Daniel could speak, Lila cried out, "No! Save Anna! She's stronger. She can fight. She can survive. Choose her, Daniel. Please." Her words cut him even deeper. Both sisters begged him to save the other, both willing to die if it meant the other could live. The timer ticked. 40 seconds. 35. Daniel's vision blurred. His chest burned. He looked at the cages and saw something strange. The glow of the walls was not steady. It pulsed like a rhythm, like a heartbeat. He wondered if they were machines, or something alive. And in that instant, a wild thought entered his mind. Maybe the choice was not real. Maybe it was only a cruel test. Maybe they wanted to see if a human would break under pressure. 20 seconds. The commander's cold smile spread wider. He enjoyed this. He wanted to taste Daniel's despair. Daniel clenched his fists, shaking, his whole body ready to collapse. He could not lose Anna. He could not lose Lila. But he could not play their game either. 10 seconds. His sisters screamed his name, their voices raw with terror. Daniel's chest rose and fell, his breath ragged. He stared into the commander's eyes and felt something shift inside him. A fire, a refusal, a human defiance. 5 seconds. 4, 3. Daniel raised his voice, louder than he thought possible. I choose neither. You will not control me. I will not obey. The timer froze. The chamber went silent. The commander's smile vanished. His eyes narrowed in rage. The cages pulsed brighter. The ship itself seemed to tremble. For the first time, Daniel saw something new in the alien's gaze. Not just anger, but fear. And he knew this was not the end. This was the beginning of something far greater. He would not bow. He would not break. And he swore to himself, no matter what it cost, he would save both his sisters. Even if it meant fighting the entire galaxy. Word count 810. Written in third person. Uses simple basic English. Every sentence ends with a comma instead of full stop. Suspenseful 5 to 7 min hook for part 1. Do you want me to continue part 2? Next 800 words, in the same style. Or should I outline all 7 parts first, before writing them out? You said, start with part 2. More unique ChatGPT said, perfect, thanks for confirming. We'll continue straight into part 2 of the story. Keeping it unique, suspenseful, third person, simple English, 800 words, with commas instead of full stops. Here's part 2. Part 2. The choice that broke the rules. The room shook after Daniel's refusal. The glowing walls pulsed faster, as if the ship itself had felt his words. The commander's eyes narrowed, cold and sharp like knives. No human had ever spoken back. Not here. Not under his rule. You dare defy me. The alien voice thundered, echoing through the chamber like a storm. The guards raised their weapons, thin spears that hummed with dangerous energy. Anna and Lila screamed together, begging Daniel to take back his words. But his face remained steady. Inside he was trembling, but outside he stood tall. I said I choose neither, Daniel repeated, his voice breaking yet filled with fire. You will not make me kill my own blood. For a long moment nothing moved. The commander studied him, as if measuring his worth, as if weighing something deeper. Then, with a motion of his claw, the timer vanished, the cages dimmed, the guards lowered their spears. Though their glowing eyes still burned with anger, Daniel's chest heaved, his body weak from the pressure. He thought he had won, at least for now, but the commander's next words froze his blood. Very well, human. You have rejected the law of choice. Then you will be tested in another way. Your fate, and the fate of your sisters, will be decided by trial. The cages lifted from the ground, floating higher. Anna and Lila cried out, reaching for Daniel, their voices filled with terror. But the cages shot upward, disappearing through the ceiling like vanishing stars. Daniel tried to run, tried to leap, but the guards slammed their spears into the ground, a shockwave knocking him backward. He hit the floor, his hands burning, his teeth biting down on his lip to stop a scream. When he looked up, the commander loomed above him. In our law, every prisoner is measured, every life is weighed. You refuse to choose, so now you will fight. If you win, both sisters live. If you fail, all of you die. Daniel's eyes widened. Fight. Fight against what? He had no weapons, no armor, nothing but human skin and bone. Yet the commander did not explain. He only turned and walked through a massive door that slid open with a hiss. The guards dragged Daniel to his feet and pushed him forward. His body ached, his legs heavy, but he kept moving. The corridor beyond was wider. lit with strange green fire that floated in glass tubes. Symbols ran along the walls, glowing, shifting, alive. The air smelled of iron and ash. The guards led him through twisting halls until the sound of roaring voices grew louder. It was not human voices, but alien, 1,000 throats crying out at once, hungry for something. Finally, the corridor opened into a massive arena. Daniel's eyes widened as he stepped inside. The ground was black stone, cracked and scarred, as if burned by fire. Tall walls rose around the circle, and above them were rows upon rows of alien spectators, their bodies glowing with different colors, their faces sharp, their claws tapping in rhythm. They were cheering, chanting, hungry for blood. In the center stood a single gate, tall and heavy, locked with chains. The commander's voice echoed through the arena. Behold, the human who refused the law of choice. Behold his defiance. Now he will face the trial of strength. If he survives, both his sisters will live. If he falls, his bloodline ends here. The crowd roared louder, shaking the walls. Daniel's heart pounded so hard it hurt. He had no weapon, no plan, no hope. He was just one man. But his sisters' faces burned in his mind, their voices echoing in his ears. I will fight, he whispered, his voice shaking but firm. I will not give up. The chains on the gate clanged, heavy metal groaning as they snapped free. The door slid open and the ground trembled. From the darkness stepped something massive, a beast taller than 3 men, its skin black and armored like stone, its mouth stretched wide, rows of glowing teeth, its 4 arms. The choice that broke the rules. The room shook after Daniel's refusal. The glowing walls pulsed faster, as if the ship itself had felt his words. The commander's eyes narrowed, cold and sharp like knives. No human had ever spoken back. Not here, not under his rule. You dare defy me, the alien voice thundered, echoing through the chamber like a storm. The guards raised their weapons, thin spears that hummed with dangerous energy. Anna and Lila screamed together, begging Daniel to take back his words. But his face remained steady. Inside he was trembling, but outside he stood tall. I said I choose neither, Daniel repeated, his voice breaking yet filled with fire. You will not make me kill my own blood. For a long moment nothing moved. The commander studied him, as if measuring his worth, as if weighing something deeper. Then, with a motion of his claw, the timer vanished, the cages dimmed, the guards lowered their spears, though their glowing eyes still burned with anger. Daniel's chest heaved, his body weak from the pressure. He thought he had won, at least for now, but the commander's next words froze his blood. Very well, human, you have rejected the law of choice. Then you will be tested in another way. Your fate, and the fate of your sisters, will be decided by trial. The cages lifted from the ground, floating higher. Anna and Lila cried out, reaching for Daniel, their voices filled with terror. But the cages shot upward, disappearing through the ceiling like vanishing stars. Daniel tried to run, tried to leap, but the guards slammed their spears into the ground, a shockwave knocking him backward. He hit the floor, his hands burning, his teeth biting down on his lip to stop a scream. When he looked up, the commander loomed above him. In our law, every prisoner is measured. Every life is weighed. You refuse to choose. So now you will fight. If you win, both sisters live. If you fail, all of you die. Daniel's eyes widened. Fight. Fight against what? He had no weapons, no armor, nothing but human skin and bone. Yet the commander did not explain. He only turned and walked through a massive door that slid open with a hiss. The guards dragged Daniel to his feet and pushed him forward. His body ached, his legs heavy, but he kept moving. The corridor beyond was wider, lit with strange green fire that floated in glass tubes. Symbols ran along the walls, glowing, shifting, alive. The air smelled of iron and ash. The guards led him through twisting halls until the sound of roaring voices grew louder. It was not human voices, but alien, 1,000 throats crying out at once. Hungry for something, finally. The corridor opened into a massive arena. Daniel's eyes widened as he stepped inside. The ground was black stone, cracked and scarred, as if burned by fire. Tall walls rose around the circle, and above them were rows upon rows of alien spectators, their bodies glowing with different colors, their faces sharp, their claws tapping in rhythm. They were cheering, chanting, hungry for blood. In the center stood a single gate, tall and heavy, locked with chains. The commander's voice echoed through the arena. Behold, the human who refused the law of choice. Behold his defiance. Now he will face the trial of strength. If he survives, both his sisters will live. If he falls, his bloodline ends here. The crowd roared louder, shaking the walls. Daniel's heart pounded so hard it hurt. He had no weapon, no plan, no hope. He was just one man. But his sisters' faces burned in his mind, their voices echoing in his ears. "I will fight," he whispered, his voice shaking but firm. "I will not give up." The chains on the gate clanged, heavy metal groaning as they snapped free. The door slid open and the ground trembled. From the darkness stepped something massive, a beast taller than 3 men, its skin black and armored like stone. Its mouth stretched wide, rows of glowing teeth, its 4 arms ending in claws that scraped the floor. The crowd screamed with delight, their voices shaking the air. Daniel's legs nearly gave way. He had never seen anything like it. It was not an animal, not a soldier. It was something built to kill. The commander's voice boomed again. "Survive the beast, human, or die!" The creature roared, the sound hitting like thunder. Daniel stumbled back, the ground shaking beneath him. He wanted to run, to curl into a corner and vanish. But then he thought of Anna and Leela, trapped above, waiting for him. If he gave up, they would be lost forever. He clenched his fists, raised his arms, and stood his ground. The beast charged, the arena shaking. Daniel dove aside, rolling across the cracked stone. Claws slammed into the ground where he had stood, shattering the rock into dust. The crowd screamed louder, some cheering for the beast, some for the human. Daniel scrambled to his feet, his body burning, his breath heavy. He had no weapon, but he had speed, and he had will. And he knew one thing. He would not die here. Not today. Not while his sisters' lives hung in the balance. The trial had begun, and the galaxy was watching. The arena of shadows. The beast's roar echoed through the arena like thunder trapped in stone. Its 4 arms swung with terrifying speed, claws cutting the air like blades. Daniel barely managed to dive aside, rolling across the black ground. His palms scraped raw, his chest burning with fear and adrenaline. The crowd above howled with excitement, their glowing eyes fixed on the small human who dared to stand against a monster. The commander watched from a high platform, his expression unreadable. He had expected the human to collapse in terror, to beg for mercy, but Daniel was still on his feet, trembling but unbroken. That alone stirred whispers among the aliens. The beast struck again, its claw smashing into the stone, sending cracks racing across the floor. Shards flew, slicing Daniel's arm, but he kept running, his mind racing for answers. He had no weapon, no armor, only his speed. If he tried to fight directly, he would die. But he remembered something. Back on Earth, Anna had always told him, "Brains before fists. You're not the strongest, Danny, but you're clever." And Lila's words too. Every wall has a door, even if you cannot see it. He glanced around the arena, searching. The ground was cracked, broken, scarred from battles before. The walls were high but pulsing with energy. Somewhere here, there had to be a weakness. Somewhere, there had to be a way to win. The beast lunged again, jaws snapping, teeth glowing with strange light. Daniel dove between its legs, Sliding across the dust, the crowd gasped, their voices rising louder. The beast turned with rage, its tail smashing against the wall. Shaking the arena, Daniel's body ached, but his mind sharpened. He noticed the beast's movements were strong, but predictable. Every strike shook the ground. Every roar made the walls pulse brighter, as if the creature was connected to the arena itself. Then he saw it. Each time the beast struck, the cracks in the stone glowed faintly blue. It was not just an arena, it was alive. And maybe, just maybe, he could use that. Daniel shouted, his voice raw, "You wanna fight? Then fight me!" He waved his arms, drawing the beast's attention. The creature roared and charged, its claws raised high. At the last second, Daniel leapt aside, and the beast slammed its full strength into the cracked floor. The ground glowed bright blue, the cracks spreading wider, the stone groaning like it was ready to break. The crowd gasped again, their voices mixing with confusion. Daniel grinned through the pain, his idea working. He kept moving, dodging, taunting, forcing the beast to strike the same spots. Each strike made the cracks spread deeper, the blue light brighter. The arena itself seemed to scream beneath them. High above, Anna and Lila watched from their cages, their hands pressed to the glass. They could not hear Daniel's words, but they saw his plan. Anna whispered, "He's using it against itself." Lila's tears turned into hope. "Come on, Danny, you can do it." The commander's eyes narrowed. This was not how it was supposed to go. The human was supposed to break, not to think. Yet now the crowd was watching with something strange in their voices. Not just hunger for blood, but curiosity, respect. The beast roared louder, furious at being tricked. It struck again, claws crashing into the same cracked ground. The floor exploded with blue light, pieces of stone flying into the air. Daniel was thrown back, his body hitting the wall, pain flooding his ribs. But as he gasped for breath, he saw it. The ground beneath the beast began to collapse. The cracks opened wide, a glowing abyss tearing through the arena. The monster roared in shock as its massive body slipped. It clawed at the stone, but its weight dragged it down. With a final scream, the beast fell into the glowing abyss, swallowed by light. The arena shook one last time before silence fell. The crowd stared, their glowing eyes wide. Then a wave of sound rolled through them. Not just cheers, but chants. "Human, human, human." It was not respect the commander wanted, but now it filled the air. Unstoppable, Daniel lay on the ground, bleeding, his body aching, but his eyes burning with defiance. He had survived. He had beaten the beast with nothing but his mind and his will. He struggled to his knees, his breath ragged, and raised a fist to the sky. "For my sisters," he whispered. Anna and Lila cried in their cages, tears of joy and fear. He had won, but they knew it was not over. The commander's voice broke through the noise, louder than the crowd. "Impressive human, but strength alone is not enough. This was only the first trial. You will face many more until your spirit is broken, or until you prove yourself worthy." The crowd roared again, divided between excitement and disbelief. Daniel's stomach twisted, his body shaking. How many more trials? How many more monsters? How many more games? But when he looked up and saw his sisters, he knew the answer inside. No matter how many trials came, he would face them all. Because giving up was not an option. Not for Anna, not for Lila, not for humanity. And somewhere deep inside, Daniel felt it. The aliens feared something. Not his body, not his fists, but the fire that refused to die, the fire of a human heart. The arena grew silent once more. The next trial awaited, and Daniel knew the real war had only just begun. The trial of the mind. The arena was silent after the beast's fall. Dust floated in the air, glowing faintly blue from the cracks in the stone. Daniel stood on shaking legs, his chest burning, his arms cut and bruised. He had survived the first trial, But the commander's voice reminded him it was only the beginning. 2 guards stepped forward, their black armor glinting in the strange light. They grabbed Daniel by the arms and pulled him from the ruined floor. He wanted to fight them, to break free, but his body was too weak. For now, he had to follow, to see what waited next. The crowd chanted as he was dragged away, their voices echoing in the walls. Human, human, human. It was not victory the commander had wanted, but it was something he could not silence. The aliens had seen a human survive, and that spark could not be taken back. The corridors twisted again, leading Daniel into a chamber unlike the others. This one was quiet. No fire, no stone, no crowd. The walls shimmered with a silver glow, like liquid metal frozen in place. In the center stood a tall chair, more like a throne, wires and glowing threads dangling above it. The commander's voice filled the chamber, though the alien himself was not present. Strength you have shown, but strength alone is empty. Now we will test your mind, human. Sit. Or your sisters die where they stand. Daniel's heart sank. Another trial, another trap. He looked at the glowing throne and knew it was dangerous. But above him, small windows flickered open in the wall. Through them he could see Anna and Lila, their cages floating, their eyes wide with fear. He had no choice. He lowered himself into the chair, his hands gripping the cold metal. The wires dropped, wrapping around his head, his arms, his chest. They burned at first, then sank into his skin like smoke. Daniel gasped, his vision blurring, the room fading into darkness. When his eyes opened again, he was no longer in the chamber. He stood in a forest, but not Earth's forest. The trees were black, their leaves glowing faint green. The air heavy like water. Shadows moved between the trunks, tall, twisted shapes with too many limbs. Daniel turned, searching, and froze. Anna stood behind him, pale, shaking, her eyes hollow. Lila stood too, her face twisted in pain. Daniel, Anna whispered, you left me. You chose her. No, Lila cried. You chose Anna, and I died. Daniel's heart cracked, his chest burning. No, I didn't choose. I refused. But their voices cut him, sharp as knives. You killed us both, Anna said, her face darkening. You let us suffer, Lila screamed, her voice echoing through the black trees. Daniel fell to his knees, clutching his head. This was not real, he told himself. It could not be real. It was a trick, a mind trap, a way to break him from the inside. But the pain was real. The guilt was real. The aliens had reached into his heart and pulled out his greatest fear. Losing both his sisters, the shadows crept closer, their shapes stretching tall, whispering in alien tongues. They circled him, chanting, choose, choose, choose. Daniel's hands shook, his mind spinning. If he gave in, if he accepted the guilt, he would shatter. That was the trial, not to fight with fists, but to fight his own heart. He looked at the false Anna and Lila, their faces full of blame. Tears ran down his cheeks as he whispered, no, I will not believe this. You are not my sisters. They would never blame me. They would never ask me to choose. They love me, and I love them. The shadows screamed, their forms rippling like broken glass. The false Anna and Lila dissolved into smoke, their eyes wide with rage before vanishing. The black forest cracked, the glowing leaves falling, the ground breaking apart beneath him. Daniel shouted into the collapsing world, you cannot break me. You cannot turn me against them. I know who they are. I know who I am. The world shattered, light exploding around him. Daniel gasped as he snapped back into the silver chamber, his body drenched in sweat, his chest heaving. The wires slid off his skin, curling back into the throne above him. The window showed Anna and Lila still alive, their hands pressed to the glass, their eyes full of hope. They had seen him survive, Even this, the commander's voice returned, colder than ever. Interesting, human. Your mind resisted the shadows. Few have done so. But remember, every trial only sharpens the blade that will cut you. You will not last forever. Daniel forced himself to his feet, his legs shaking, his breath ragged. But he lifted his head and stared at the empty air where the commander's voice came from. I'll last as long as I need to, longer than you expect, and I'll take my sisters home. The chamber dimmed, the walls shifting like ripples in water. The guard stepped forward again, ready to drag him into whatever waited next. Daniel clenched his fists, his body weak, but his spirit burning stronger than ever. They had tested his strength, they had tested his mind, and still he stood, still unbroken. The trials were far from over, but with every step, Daniel felt something growing. Not just defiance, but power. The kind of power that frightened his captors more than anything else. The trial of loyalty. The silver chamber faded behind him. Daniel's body trembled with exhaustion, but his eyes stayed sharp. The guards dragged him through another corridor. This one narrower, darker. The air heavy with the smell of ash. He had passed strength. He had passed the shadows of the mind. But deep inside he knew the next test would be worse. The commander's voice echoed again, smooth and cruel. You have defied the law of choice. Human, you have resisted fear. But loyalty is fragile. Let us see if yours can be broken. Daniel clenched his fists. He knew what the alien meant. They would use his love for Anna and Lila against him. They would twist it until it cut. The corridor opened into a new chamber. This one was colder. The floor made of black glass that reflected his every step. In the center were two more cages, not glowing blue this time, but burning red. Inside them stood Anna and Lila, alive but trembling, their faces pale under the harsh light. The sight of them made Daniel's heart twist. He pressed his hands to the glass floor, whispering their names. They called back, their voices weak but filled with relief. Then another cage rose from the shadows, smaller, and inside was not a sister, but a stranger, a man, older, scarred, his eyes burning with anger. The commander's voice filled the room. This is Captain Wren, a warrior of your species. He was taken from another world long before you. He fought us and he failed, but he still breathes. You may free him, or you may free one sister. The others will burn. Choose human. Prove where your loyalty lies. Daniel's stomach turned. Another choice. Another cruel game. The flames beneath the cages licked higher. Glowing brighter, Anna shouted, "Daniel, don't listen! Choose Lila," Lila cried. "No, save Anna. She's stronger." But Captain Wren growled, his voice deep and broken. "Don't waste your choice on me, boy. Save your blood. I am already lost." Daniel's hand shook, his head pounding. 3 cages, 3 lives, 1 decision. He could not kill one sister. He could not abandon the stranger either. Every part of him screamed in panic. The commander's voice was sharp as a blade. Choose human and show us your loyalty. To family, to your kind, or to no one. Daniel dropped to his knees, his breath heavy. This was different from the beast, different from the shadows. This was not about strength or fear. This was about breaking his heart. If he chose, he would destroy himself. If he refused, they might all die. But deep inside, a spark burned. Maybe that was the point. Maybe the trial was not about loyalty, but about obedience. If he obeyed, he would lose. If he defied again, he might uncover the truth. Daniel rose to his feet, his voice shaking but strong. "No, I won't play your game. Loyalty is not about choosing who to kill. It's about refusing to betray. I will not sacrifice one for another. Not my sisters. Not a stranger. Not anyone." The cages burned brighter, the flames rising higher. Anna screamed his name. Lila sobbed. Captain Wren slammed his fists against the bars. The commander's laugh filled the chamber. "Foolish human! Defiance will kill them all. Daniel's heart pounded, his mind racing. He looked closer at the flames and noticed something strange. The fire was bright, but not hot. The cages glowed red, but the sisters did not burn. It was an illusion, another trick, another test of fear. His chest rose and fell as he shouted, "This is not real. You are lying. You want me to believe I am killing them, but I will not." The flames froze. The cages flickered, their glow shattering like broken glass. Aina and Lila gasped, realizing they were unharmed. Captain Rains stared at Daniel, eyes wide with disbelief. The commander's voice was sharper now, less certain. "You saw through it. How?" Daniel wiped the sweat from his face, his voice heavy but steady. "Because I know my sisters, because I know myself, and because loyalty is not your weapon to twist. It is my strength." The chamber shook, the walls rippling like water, disturbed by a stone. The cages sank back into the ground, vanishing into shadow. The guards stepped back, unsure. The crowd outside began to chant again, their voices echoing through the halls. "Human, human, human." Daniel turned to Captain Ran, who still stood in silence. The older man's eyes were full of something new, not anger, but respect. You are not like the others," Ren said, his voice low. "The others broke, every single one but you." Daniel stared at him, his body weak, but his spirit burning brighter than ever. He had passed another trial, not by choosing, but by refusing, and for the first time he wondered. Maybe these trials were not about judgment. Maybe they were about fear. Maybe the aliens were afraid of what a human could become if he refused to bow. The truth behind the trials. The chamber walls rippled like liquid, then hardened back into steel. Daniel stood breathing heavily, his body shaking from exhaustion, but his eyes still burned with fire. Captain Ren was beside him now, scarred and hardened, yet staring at Daniel with something like respect. The guards did not drag them away this time. They hesitated, their glowing eyes flickering as if unsure. The commander's voice returned, low and sharp. "You have passed strength, mind and loyalty, human. But you will not last forever. Your defiance is dangerous. Your spirit is poison to our law." Daniel raised his chin, forcing his voice to stay steady. "Maybe your law is wrong. Maybe that's why you test us. Because you're afraid we might prove it." The chamber shook at his words, as if the walls themselves rejected them. The commander appeared in person this time, stepping from the shadows, his armor black and ridged, his eyes glowing like frozen fire. Behind him stood more aliens, tall, silent, watching. The commander stared at Daniel, then at Ran. "Do you wonder why we take your kind? Why we force you to choose? To suffer? To bleed?" Daniel's chest heaved as he spat back. "Because you enjoy cruelty. Because you want to break us." The commander tilted his head, a faint smile twisting his face. "No, human. Not cruelty. Survival." The word cut through the air like a blade. Ren narrowed his eyes, his scarred face tightening. "Survival? What do you mean?" The commander raised one clawed hand, and the chamber shifted, the walls melting away into light. Suddenly, Daniel and Ren stood in what looked like the void of space, stars burning around them. A massive projection appeared, showing entire worlds, fleets of ships, and something else, shapes, darker than space itself, twisting, writhing, endless. The commander's voice echoed. "There are enemies beyond your sight, creatures older than our kind, older than yours. They consume stars. They devour worlds. They erase entire races. We have faced them for centuries, and we are failing." Daniel's eyes widened as he stared at the dark shapes moving like storms through galaxies. They were enormous, endless, their forms shifting like shadows alive. The commander's voice dropped lower. "We test other species because we must know if they can resist, if they can endure the unendurable. Many races failed. They bent, they broke. Only those who endure the trials are chosen to join the war. Rain's fists clenched, his voice bitter. So that is it, you torture us. You make us kill each other, just to see if we're strong enough for your war. The commander's glowing eyes flicked to him. Yes, warrior, only the unbroken may fight beside us. Only the defiant may stand against the darkness. Daniel's breath caught. Pieces clicked in his mind. The impossible choice between his sisters, the beast, the illusions, the cages. They were never just trials of cruelty. They were filters, ways to find the strongest spirit. But his stomach twisted at the thought. How many had died in these tests? How many humans and others had been thrown away? The commander stepped closer, his gaze burning into Daniel. You refused every law we forced on you. You bent none of our rules. That is why the crowd chants for you. That is why we watch you now. But know this, human. If you wish to save your sisters, if you wish to leave this ship alive, you must survive the final trial, the trial of truth. The stars flickered out. The chamber returned. Daniel stumbled. The ground hard beneath him again. Anna and Lila's cages appeared high above, glowing faint blue, their faces pressed to the glass, eyes wide with fear. Daniel shouted their names, his voice breaking, but the commander raised a claw, silencing him. The final trial will not test your strength, nor your mind, nor your loyalty. It will test your truth, the truth of what it means to be human. The crowd beyond the walls roared. They had heard the words. They hungered for the next test. Daniel's heart hammered in his chest. He did not understand. Not yet. But he knew this was more dangerous than the beast. More cruel than the illusions. Ren leaned close, whispering harshly. They're not just testing you, boy. They're watching us. All of us. Every move you make is teaching them what humanity is. And if you fail, they'll decide humanity is weak. Disposable. Daniel swallowed hard, his eyes fixed on his sisters. He could not fail. Not now. Not when the truth of humanity itself was on trial. The commander raised both arms, his voice shaking the chamber. The next trial begins at dawn. Rest if you can. For tomorrow we will see if humanity is worthy of survival. The guards dragged Daniel and Ren toward a dark corridor. Daniel's body was weak, his steps heavy, but his spirit burned stronger than ever. He had survived strength. He had survived fear. He had survived loyalty. Now he would face truth. And deep inside, he felt the weight of something far greater. It was no longer only about Anna and Lila, no longer about saving his sisters. It was about proving what it meant to be human. To all of them. To the galaxy itself. The trial of truth. The night on the alien ship was not like night on Earth. There was no moon, no stars, only endless metal halls glowing with a pale blue light. Daniel sat in a cold chamber with Captain Ren beside him, his body aching, his mind heavy. Above he knew Anna and Lila were trapped in their cages, waiting, watching, praying. The commander's words echoed in his skull. The final trial will test your truth. But what did that mean? He had fought monsters. He had resisted illusions. He had defied impossible choices. How could truth be harder than all of that? Ren leaned against the wall, his scarred face shadowed. They will break you if you let them, boy. Truth isn't about fighting them. It's about fighting yourself. Daniel looked at him, his voice tired. Then what if I don't even know the truth? Rain's eyes narrowed. Then you better find it before dawn. When dawn came, there was no sun, only the blinding white light of the chamber that swallowed them both. The guards dragged Daniel forward, his wrists bound by glowing chains. The arena was not stone this time, not fire, not shadows. It was a vast hall of mirrors, endless glass stretching in every direction. Each mirror reflected Daniel, Anna, Leela, and even Captain Ren. But the reflections were not still. They moved, twisted, speaking in voices not their own. The commander stood at the center, his black armor gleaming. The trial of truth begins. his voice thundered. In this place, every lie you carry will become your enemy. Every falsehood will cut you. Only if you hold to your truth will you survive, fail. And your sisters perish, the mirrors rippled, and suddenly the reflections stepped out. Hundreds of Daniels, hundreds of Annas, hundreds of Lila and Wrens. But they were twisted, their faces dark, their voices cruel. You are weak, one Daniel spat. You pretend to be strong, but you are afraid. You wanted one sister more. Anna's reflection hissed. You almost chose. Admit it. You can't save us. Lila's shadow cried. You will watch us die. You are no leader, Rain's copy growled. You are only a boy playing at war. Daniel staggered back, his heart pounding. The reflections closed in, their voices mixing into a storm of hatred. He swung his fists, striking one, but his hand passed through it, pain shooting up his arm. They were not flesh, they were lies, and lies could not be killed with fists. The real Anna screamed from above, her voice muffled through the glass. Daniel, listen. Don't fight them. Listen to yourself. Her words struck deep, cutting through the storm. Daniel fell to his knees, his hands clutching his head. He closed his eyes, drowning out the voices, and inside the darkness of his mind, he searched. He remembered Anna protecting him when he was small. He remembered Lila laughing in the rain. He remembered Ran, broken, yet unbowed, telling him not to give in. He remembered his own voice, shouting in defiance. I will not choose. I will not bow. I will not break. His chest rose, his breath steadying. When he opened his eyes, the mirrors still burned with twisted faces, but now his voice cut through them. Yes, I am afraid. Yes, I almost chose. Yes, I am not the strongest, but none of that matters. My truth is this. I am human, and being human means we fight for each other. No matter the cost, no matter the pain, we never give up. We never abandon. We love. We endure. That is my truth. The mirrors cracked. The twisted reflections screamed, their voices shattering like glass. The hole exploded in light, shards flying in every direction, but none cut him. The illusions fell, the voices died, and silence filled the hall. Daniel stood, shaking but unbroken. The chains on his wrists shattered into sparks, vanishing into the air. Above, Anna and Lila's cages dissolved, lowering gently to the ground. They stumbled free, rushing into his arms, tears streaming down their faces. Daniel held them tight, his whole body trembling, whispering, I promised, and I kept it. I will never lose you. Captain Wren stepped forward, his eyes wide, his scarred face lit with something close to hope. You did it, boy. You found the truth. The commander watched in silence, his glowing eyes unreadable. At last he spoke, his voice lower, colder, but touched with something else. You have shown what your kind is. Human, you have endured, you have resisted. You have spoken your truth. We cannot break you. Perhaps that is why your species may yet stand beside us. In the war to come, the arena walls faded, the crowd beyond roaring louder than ever. Their chant shook the ship. Human, human, human. Daniel lifted his sister's hands, his eyes burning into the commander's. I didn't fight for you. I fought for them. I fought because that's what humans do. We fight for each other. We fight for family. And if the darkness comes for us, we'll fight that too. The commander's eyes narrowed, but Daniel saw something hidden deep inside. Not just anger, but respect, even fear. Because truth was more dangerous than strength, more dangerous than defiance. Truth was unbreakable. And in that moment, Daniel knew this was not the end of his story. It was the beginning of humanity's place among the stars.